Terrifying morning radio. American girl. She's a proud American girl and proud to be on the Upstate's talk station.
106.3 WORD.
Welcome to the Tara Show.
You're completely innocent. You've never done anything but get a speeding ticket. Well, that was the story on April Christina Carter right here in Greenville. She pulls into her mom's driveway and up pull two sheriff's deputies. In front of her children and her mom and her family, they arrest her and haul her away. She's completely baffled by this. What has she done? Well, ma'am, they explain, 14 years ago, you did not pay a $50 speeding ticket, and thus we are arresting you 14 years ago. So they take her in, and she spends 2.5 days in the Greenville County Detention Center, that's the jail, in a cell with a double murder suspect, as she begs and she pleads to be let out. She is not charged with anything. No bond is set. She has no way out. And she tries to tell them again and again and again, I paid it. I paid the $50 fine for going, get this, too fast for conditions or less than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. Turns out, she was right. She had paid it, and she'd paid it on time. Now she's suing the Greenville County Sheriff. Joining me to talk about how this could possibly happen, April Porter. Good morning, April.
Good morning, Tara.
You are a Chester attorney.
I am.
Yeah. Now, I contacted you after I was barraged yesterday on our text line by people. This has happened to tons of people, and they have been arrested and thrown in jail for tickets, a lot of them small traffic tickets, that they paid. One guy, they came for him on Thanksgiving, and thankfully for 10 years he had held the receipt of the payment of the ticket. He was able to show it to the cops, and they backed off. But a lot of other folks have been thrown in jail over this. Is this a common thing in South Carolina?
This appears to be more common than a lot of residents would think it would be. What's baffling about this case is if the record showed that she did not pay the ticket, which obviously she did pay the ticket, but let's just say she didn't pay the ticket, a bench warrant would not have even been appropriate for a $50 speeding fine. We have what is in our state called a non-resident violators compact. It's been in effect since 1981. And what that means is if you don't pay a speeding ticket, your license gets suspended. Now, that could ultimately result in a subsequent arrest if you're stopped for another violation or stopped for some reason, a license check, and it's determined that your license is suspended. You could be arrested for that. But what I'm concerned about is why was she issued a bench warrant over a $50 speeding ticket? Because the worst thing that should have happened if she didn't pay it was for her license to be suspended. And even if she wasn't stopped for any reason upon a license renewal, it would have shown that there was an issue. So this is a troubling case, but this is not the first time I've heard of this. I've had clients before who've called me and told me of similar stories. Now, this one is a little bit more concerning, too, because of the stay in jail for 2.5 days. No bond. If anything, she should have been given an opportunity within the first 24 hours to pay $50 and get out of jail and deal with this. For people who are charged with murder, don't sit in jail for more than 24 hours before they're given a bond hearing or the opportunity to pay for a bench warrant. So this is a very troubling case, but unfortunately, she's not the only one, and there are a lot of residents in South Carolina who face similar issues.
Yeah, I'm confused by this. I thought constitutionally you can't throw somebody in jail for 2.5 days without charging them.
We don't know all the facts. I don't know how they even justified keeping her in jail for 2.5 days. There cannot be a justification in my mind. She should have been given the opportunity to pay the fine under the bench warrant, which would have been $50, and released from jail.
The response from the sheriff's office, they're being sued now by her. Here's their response, that they say they acted reasonably and in good faith. They didn't violate any of her clearly established rights. And in addition, they say they're employees of a government entity, and so they're immune from the suit that she's filed against them, and she can't do anything.
Well, I think a judge or a jury may disagree with that position. This is, again, a troubling case. apparently from the facts as we know them, has been presented to us thus far, her constitutional rights have very much been violated. To me, just on the face, the bench warrant was not even appropriate or necessary for a speeding fine. So right there, there's a threshold question of why was that even executed against her, and then to hold her for such a long time when it's well known that you are to be bonded or for your bench warrant to be addressed within 24 hours. That's another violation. So clearly, they have an issue, and they're going to have a tough case ahead of them to fight her on what she has alleged in her lawsuit against them. It's going to be a difficult road for them.
You know, just on a human level, and I know you're an attorney, April Porter, so you're going to look at it legally. Just on a human level, I asked this question yesterday. You know, come on, you put this woman, I mean, how terrified would you be? You're a regular citizen, you're put in a jail cell, locked in for 2.5 days with a double murder suspect. You know, and the sheriff, the judicial system, can they not just do the human thing and go, you know what, we made a mistake, we're sorry, we really apologize, we're going to get to the bottom of it, we're going to change the system so it never happens again. I mean, to me, I would feel terrible if I did this or I oversaw an agency that did this. I would want to, you know, go hat in hands and apologize to her and promise to look into it and make it better, but we're not seeing that. Can you just react to that? I mean, it's the callousness of it. Oh, sorry, 2.5 days in a jail cell with a double murder suspect. You can't come after us legally. I mean, that's been the response.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, this agency can try to pretend to hide behind governmental immunity, but if her constitutional rights have been compromised, and clearly based on the facts as we know them, they have been, that's going to have to be addressed in a court of law. And typically what you'll see with state agencies, they are going to litigate this. They're not just going to roll over and say, oh, yeah, we issue an apology. They're not going to do that. They're not going to admit that they did anything wrong. That's going to have to be litigated in court and shown. I believe she's requesting a jury trial. That's going to have to be shown to a jury, and a jury of her 12 peers are going to have to decide what her damages should be in this case. But even, as you say, from just a point of being a human being, and this is horrifying because this could happen to me, this could happen to you. This has happened to a lot of other people in our state, and it's just horrifying. And what I tell clients often when we talk about these types of cases, because it does come up, you need to check your background. You need to make sure there's not some bench warrant sitting out there that could cost you your job, cost you your livelihood, cost you your freedom. We take for granted that we're just going to know if there is a warrant that's out there for our arrest, but here, clearly in this case, there was a warrant for 15 years, and she didn't know about it. So we need to be diligent in checking our criminal background checks, checking NCIC, doing an online search at least once a year just to make sure there's not been some error, clerical error, particularly if you get a speeding ticket or you're charged with a crime and you plead guilty and you pay the fine. Make sure that is dealt with all the way through the system so that it's cleared or dismissed from your record. Otherwise, one clerical error could just end up in a nightmare for a citizen in this state.
Yeah, and I had somebody text me yesterday, April, and say, wow, okay, I got a traffic ticket 10 years ago. Thank God I still have the receipt. I guess, does this mean in South Carolina you should keep the receipt for payment of a traffic ticket for the rest of your life?
Yeah, who really does that? Who keeps tickets from your receipts from 10, 15 years ago? That's not going to be a common occurrence for someone to have a ticket. But apparently from what we're hearing and from this case, it's not a bad idea to keep it with you. But even still, I wonder in this particular case with Miss Carter, when she was arrested, let's just say she would have had the ticket on her person, would that have stopped the arrest?
Yeah, I don't even know.
That's what we don't know. Those officers had a bench warrant. They were going to execute that bench warrant. And I think even showing a paid receipt from 15 years ago may not have stopped the execution of the bench warrant.
And you know, April, here goes the text line again. It's person after person who's had the same thing over a simple traffic or speeding ticket.
Yeah.
And then they're, out there arguing with the officer who's putting cuffs on them. They got to get to the bottom of this. It sounds to me like there's something in this system that is, there's some mistakes being made somewhere.
Absolutely. And a lot of this can be just attributable to something simple as entry into a computer system or a new clerk working for a governmental agency that is not totally familiar with the process. I mean, it could be just a simple error that has devastating effects. But you're right, but it starts with the citizens. You've got to check your background. You've got to make sure your driving record's clear, because what I also see is so many people being stopped now for driving under suspension. This is rampant through our state, and your license can be suspended for various reasons unbeknownst to you. So if you're stopped in a license check or you're stopped for speeding and your license has been suspended, you can almost guarantee you're going to be arrested.
Wow, so they don't send you any notice then if your license has been suspended?
Well, they are supposed to. Department of Motor Vehicles is supposed to, of course, send you a notice of suspension. But what happens if someone moves? They're going to send it to the last known address. And a lot of times citizens will move and not update their DMV records. And they're only going to send it to the last known address. And if that doesn't get forwarded, you will have no knowledge of it.
Wow. All right. Well, I don't want a 3-day vacation with a double murder suspect. So I think I'm going to check my record. April Porter, attorney from Chester, thank you so much for joining us this morning on 106.3 WORD.
Mornings with Moxie. It's the Tara Show. Only on 106.3 WORD.